Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Your Excellency, our President, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, the envoys of the international community, Honorable Deputy Ministers and Honorable Members. We're commemorating the centenary of one of our great leaders, the late Mr. Oliver Reginald Tambo. When the apartheid regime imposed the homeland system on South Africa, the Honorable Oliver Tambo and Inkosi Albert Luchuli urged me to take up leadership of the KwaZulu government. In this way, they said we could undermine apartheid from within. I did what they asked for. They were my leaders. But it placed me on a journey of intense opposition, vilification, and danger. A journey that endured for many years. Why did I keep going, you may ask? Because I love my country. I respect my leaders, and I follow my conscience. These are the same reasons I keep serving even in a vastly changed political environment, even when chaos regularly erupts in this House, even when we are forced to apologize to our guests, to the nation, and to the international observers, even when security is breached and the Constitution is considered pliable, even when the Honorable Mbuyiseni Ndlozi wants me to move, because to quote him, that things are about to get rough. Well, I'm descended from warriors and kings. My grandfather, Mangosuthu Buthelezi, fought at Isandlwana on the 22nd of January, 1879. I've survived countless assassination attempts. I've been watched by security police in the previous era and have gone head to head with powerful leaders. In short, I'm not afraid. But I'm tempted to be despondent. After the sitting last Thursday, a message was posted on Facebook that read, quote, "My heart broke when Prince Buthelezi said, quote, I'm told it's going to get rough. I don't know where to go." Does he realize that that sentence is the voice of the people? This is what our people are saying, Your Excellency. They know that it's about to get rough, and they don't know where to go. They don't know where to turn for safety, or how they and their families can avoid the storm. Empty words don't provide refuge. There's no longer meaning in the well-worn phrases about a better life for all. Government is working hard, we're showing signs of stability, and working together we can do more. Our people are desperate for something real, real hope and real solutions. I must thank you, Mr. President, for finally explaining what is meant by radical economic transformation. Unfortunately, while the intention has merit, I think the approach is flawed. Listen again to the words of Mr. Tambo, quote, "We have it within our power to transform this country into the land of plenty for all." I emphasize for all. That vision carried through in GEAR, in the Growth, Employment and Redistribution Plan. It carried through in ASGISA, the Accelerated Shared Growth Initiative for South Africa. But it doesn't carry through in the new plan of radical economic transformation. GEAR didn't fail because there was anything wrong with it, but Your Excellency, the tripartite partners of the ANC said, we do not want GEAR, we do not want GEAR, and that was the end of it. It was abandoned by the ruling party. As GESA wasn't flawed, it simply lacked the sustained and strategic leadership needed to implement it. The same might well be said about the NDP, which will be your legacy, Mr. President, in the years to come. maybe they'll say it didn't fail too and wasn't flawed. It just wasn't carried through. After all, some of your tripartite partners have already expressed reservation about the NDP, which all of us accept. The difference between these economic approaches and the program of radical economic transformation is the complete reliance on merely rearranging the little that exists, moving it from one group to another. Evidently, white monopoly capital is now the only scapegoat for failed leadership on economic policy. I believe in the redistribution of wealth, Your Excellency, and the creation of social and economic justice as you do. But I also know that if we shift our focus from growth and make it all about redistribution, millions of South Africans are going to go hungry. There's just not enough to go around. I warned government about this from the very beginning. When we entered democracy in 1994, I urged us to focus on growth. We needed to grow our industrial bases. We needed to grow our economy. We needed to grow our workforce through skills and development. We needed to grow our citizens through education. No matter how you slice it, the pie is just not big enough for everyone to eat. South Africa must grow and develop and progress. Reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic will not save the lives of those who are destined to drown if this ship of ours sinks, Your Excellency. This is why I've always pushed for accessible quality education. The Fees Must Fall campaign isn't new. In 1971, I met with the then Prime Minister, Mr. John Foster, to urge him to introduce free compulsory education in what was then called KwaZulu. Mr. Foster refused. He followed the apartheid line that blacks were destined to be drawers of waters and hewers of wood. And as such, they had no use for education. It was a way to keep us under control. Because education brings freedom, education breaks chains. Education remains the only way to build the future of opportunity, development, stability, and hope. It is how we will transform this country into a land of plenty for all, rather than a land where a shrinking resource base is simply redistributed, laying the foundation for a new cycle of poverty, of hunger, and despair. The greatest obstacle to redistribution is corruption. It's not just the media that exposes corruption, maladministration, and poor financial management. The Auditor General consistently reports this reality in our government. We know that inequality is escalating because a large part of resources that exist is redirected away from laudable goals, which you spelled out, Mr. President, into private pockets. The road to hell, as they say, is paved with good intentions. The intention to eradicate mud schools, for instance, is commendable. But we've heard about this for years. With the launch of the Accelerated Schools Infrastructure Delivery Initiative in 2011, 496 inappropriate structures were identified to be rebuilt by 2014. 6 years later, only 173 have been eradicated. That's not good enough. Basic education receives the lion's share of our national budget. Where is that money going? Let me ask what only the NGO Section 27 is thought to ask. After the Limpopo textbook saga, we have heard nothing about textbooks being replaced. That is meant to happen every 5 years. 5 years have passed. I ask now, what? Education is the way to economic liberation. Government has a duty to translate the right to education from legislation to reality. I must therefore, Your Excellency, applaud what you announced, the reprioritizing of 32 billion to support higher education. Because at last, we're heeding the cry of our students. But another cry will soon resound from our people, and about this we heard very little. South Africa is facing a water crisis which impacts on our economy and our ability to produce food. We desperately need the President's direction on what is being done about water to meet this crisis. Without water, even land loses value. The idea that land is the most tangible form of economic empowerment resonates with me. But again, Mr. President, education is key. Much of the land allocated to claimants now lies fallow and unproductive. I agree with you, Mr. President, that when you encourage our people to rather accept land than compensation. This does nothing, however, to empower the landowner or advance the economy. It becomes an exercise in futility when the land is not used properly. Our people must be equipped with skills as well as resources. We must reignite hope in our nation so that people will find strength to pursue self-reliance. Failed leadership is robbing our people of hope, and the payment of millions of social grants alone doesn't make that all right. And you, Your Excellency, have repeatedly said that it cannot be sustained because we always say that we're a developmental state, but that makes us as going in the direction of a welfare state. We are fast reaching a point, Mr. President, when nothing we do in the future will be able to undo the damage. I thank you, sir.